Hi there guys, my name is Jacob and welcome back to the channel. Now in today's video I want to talk to you guys about pensions and more specifically the rising trend that appears to be happening at the moment of younger people deciding to opt out of contributing to their private pension. Now personally I think this is a very bad idea and it's going to have a detrimental impact on the people that choose to do that later on in life. But to make that argument, I am going to show you an example and I'm going to use my own pension and my own figures from that pension to make that argument. And I'm hoping that it will become quite clear why opting out of your pension is probably not the best thing you should be doing. Now, I understand that, the cost of living at the moment is a pressure on us all, and things like saving for a house, saving for a car, and saving for various other things when you're young are priorities. And the reason why I say young is because a lot of the articles I've read which are covering this topic, they are saying that it is mostly young people in the region of around age 20 to 35. That is the kind of age group where there is this trend of opting out of a private pension. So I can only assume that the reasons why people are opting out is, of course, cost of living and things like that. And that affects us all. But where I completely disagree is, I don't believe opting out of your private pension is the solution to these problems. And the reason for that is, even though on the face of it, it feels like if you opt out, you are going to get more money in your paycheck. And, that is a direct effect that is going to happen from opting out of your pension. You're going to divert the, let's say, £200 a month that was going into your pension. You're going to divert that back into your monthly pay. So immediately you're going to feel a positive impact. And I guess that is why a lot of people are choosing to do this. However, it is a very short-sighted thing to do because the actual financial impact that decision is going to have on you later down the line is going to be a lot bigger than that initial £200 figure, or whatever that number is that you were putting in your pension. So as I say, I'm going to use my own pension figures to give you the example and make this argument as to why I think it is a bad idea. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, stick around for the rest of the video. Now, before I get into my exact pension pot figures, I'm just going to give you a breakdown of kind of my own background, just so this makes sense and you can see where I'm coming from. So I have worked approximately 15 years for the same company, which I know actually is really odd these days, especially as I'm only 33 years old. To say I've only really worked full-time for one company is quite an odd thing in itself. But it is true. I've worked 15 years at the same place and I have contributed to the workplace pension for 13 of those 15 years. The first 2 years I was on a low paid apprenticeship. I wasn't really paid all that much, so I didn't feel like I could contribute to the pension. And as I said, I think this is why a lot of younger people are making that same decision. You're in a low paid job, and maybe you don't feel like you have the spare money to contribute, so you opt out. And for the first 2 years of my career, I did exactly the same thing. However, after 2 years went by, I got a pay rise and a promotion and things like that. I opted into the pension and I've kept it consistent for the 13 years up to today, where I've been earning decent money and I've been contributing a good amount to my pension. Now, for the first 5 to 7-ish years of my career, I was contributing around 5% of my yearly salary, into my pension. And I was lucky enough that my company matched this figure. So for about half my career, I was contributing as a total 10% of my yearly pay into my pension. And then I believe at around the 7-8 year mark, my company decided to increase their matching figure. So from 5%, which was the max that they used to match, they upped it to 10%. And at that time, I increased my contributions to make the most of that match. So from about the 7-year mark, I decided to contribute 10% of my salary, and my company matched that. So overall, I now contribute 20% of my salary into my pension. I do 10, they do 10. Now, I'm not on a massive salary, so what I contribute isn't actually a massive amount into my pension. But just because my company match what I put in, every pound that I put into my pension, I double it the moment it goes into my pension. So every pound I put in, I get an additional pound straight away. Now, I don't know about you, but I can't think of any other scheme or investment in the world that works like that, where you double your money on the day you put your money in. So that shows you the power of using a workplace pension to your benefit. You can grow your money so fast using these type of vehicles that, as I said earlier, I think opting out of it is crazy. There are other benefits as well. When I put that money in, I also save on income tax and national insurance, because the way my workplace pension is set up, it's set up using a salary sacrifice scheme. So the 10% of my pension that I contribute, that is taken off my yearly salary. It's basically put into my pension before they calculate my pay, which means I pay 10% less in income tax and national insurance. So there's another saving. And bear in mind, we all pay, well, I'm a basic rate taxpayer. So if you're a basic rate taxpayer, then we will pay 20% income tax and an additional 8% of national insurance. So I get to pay less of both of those things because I've reduced my salary by 10%. So that's another saving. And then I guess the best saving of all, or not so much a saving, but the other aspect of this is the potential to grow the money that you put into your pension. So let's dive into my numbers and I'll show you how this really looks. So over the 13-year period, and this 13-year period that I'm looking at runs from the 1st of April 2013 to the 1st of April 2026. So virtually right up to date, barring a couple of months. So over that 13-year period, from my personal contributions, I have contributed to my pension £32,508. So that is the money that I myself have specifically put into my pension. So as you can see from that, I don't personally earn a massive amount of money. I am not on a huge salary. If you average that 32,500 across 13 years, you can see my average salary has been less than 30,000 for the majority of those 13 years. I am on more than that now, so I am kind of making up for that now. However, for a large part of my career, I have been around the 30,000 salary mark. So I just want to make that clear, because for anyone thinking, I earn a lot of money or anything like that, that is not true. I'm on a very average salary. That's why these numbers are key for anyone on an average salary to show what is achievable. So as I said, over the 13 years, I myself have put in £32,508. And as my company also matches that, they have also put in £32,508. So that total, before any investment gains, that means my pension is at £65,016.93. That is what it says as total contributions over that period of time. But as I said before, that's not the only thing that makes up your pension. You also, hopefully, if things are going, right in the economy and the world, you will get capital appreciation, because your money doesn't just go into a savings account. Most pensions, as far as I'm aware, are invested in stocks and shares. And stocks and shares over time appreciate. And this is the power of a private pension. So over the course of those 13 years, myself and my company have put in £65,016. However, today's balance, after 13 years of growth, today's balance is £117,864. So that is the balance as of the 1st of April 2026, so a couple of months ago. So as you can see, that balance has nearly doubled over that period of time. And the actual growth that I have got from those investments totals £52,847. So that is additional money that I have not put in myself, and my company that I work for hasn't put in. That's just come from those stocks growing over that period of time. So the balance is, as I said, is currently £117,000. Now, I have only put in £32,000. So this is where, as I said earlier, opting out of your pension is absolute madness. Because if I'd have opted out of my pension, well, let's go back. I opted out of my pension for the first 2 years of my career. But if I hadn't opted back in after 2 years, I would have missed out on all this money. And I'd have no one to blame but myself. And it would have been for a very short-sighted reason of I'm trying to save a little bit of extra money for something. But I'd have been kicking myself in my own teeth because I'd have missed out on all this money. And this is what I'm trying to say to anybody who is thinking about opting out of your pension, or if you are opted out of your pension, think about opting back in, because the money that you think you're saving by opting out, you are missing out on so much more, where you should just be opted in. So over the 13-year period that I have been investing in my workplace pension, if I had opted out, not only would I have missed out on the 32,000 of contributions that I myself have put in over that period of time, but I would have also missed out on £85,000 that is made up of contributions from my company and growth in the market. And that is, to me, an absolutely staggering amount of money that you would ultimately have, I would have ultimately missed out on had I have opted out. And this is why I want to make this argument to anyone who is opted out or is thinking of opted out of their workplace pension. Think again, because it will be the most costly decision you possibly make in your life. Because ultimately you can't make up that money. If I'd have opted out for those 13 years and then now I feel like I'm in a better position and I'm going to opt back in today at 33 years old, I can't make up £117,000 by just contributing more. That money that would have been made had I invested 13 years ago, you can't just make that up. There's no amount of money that I could personally invest that is going to catch up. That's just money that is lost. That is potential for your pension growth that is just gone, that you're not getting back. You can contribute more as you get older, and you can put in as much as you can to try and make up the shortfall, but you will never catch up, because whilst you're playing catch up, the person who started investing 10, 12, 13 years ago, their money, even if they stopped contributing, is probably going to be growing faster than the contributions that you're making today. And that is the power of compound interest. Now, I'm not going to go into that in this video because it's been long enough as it is, but I think you get my point. The power of investing as early as possible and staying consistent for a long period of time is always going to beat somebody who starts late and invests a really large amount of money later in life. You're just not going to be able to play catch up. This isn't a game where catch up is possible. You can still make a good dent in your pension by starting later and throwing a lot of money at it. But you're much better off just starting as early as possible with small amounts, because ultimately over time they will become big amounts. And I'm hoping my example of my own pension has kind of made that clear. But really, I just want to make the argument that, as I said, I know the cost of living at the moment is high. It is high for everyone. And saving for things like houses and different things like that is tough. It's tough for everyone. It was tough for myself, when I bought my house 10 years ago. We had to sacrifice quite a few things to make that possible. But ultimately we did. And my pension was not one of the things that we sacrificed. And I would encourage you to not sacrifice your private pension contributions either, because even though it might feel like an immediate gain in the moment, it will have a far bigger impact down the line. And as I said, I hope my example has kind of shown you that. Right then, guys, let me know down in the comments what you thought of this video. Please consider hitting the like button and the subscribe button. And guys, I will catch you in the next one.